So a single lick of ice cream could put a woman behind bars for years after a nasty video went viral online. Check it out.
Lick it, lick it. Oh, you foul. Put it back. Put it back. Put it back. Put it back. Oh, you're a
Ew. So she licked the ice cream. She put it back in the freezer for somebody to buy it. And now police say that they have identified this woman and they will get an arrest warrant for her after the video got more than 10 million views online. Investigators say they were able to trace it to a Walmart in the eastern Texas city of Lufkin, about 100 miles north and east of Houston. The ice cream company Blue Bell reports tracking down the actual tub of ice cream the woman licked, but out of caution, they threw out all the containers of that flavor ice cream in the freezer. So now police say the so-called Lufkin liquor could face some pretty serious charges. Let's go to criminal defense attorney Brian Claypool again to talk to us about this story. Brian, first of all, what this woman did is just plain gross. It's disgusting, and she should be punished. The question is, what should her punishment be? Because apparently under Texas law, she could get between 20 and 20 years. Does the crime fit the time?
Well, yeah, so the Texas law mirrors a federal law. So if anybody goes into a store and tampers with a consumer product, and by tampering, that means that you put a foreign substance in the product, and here she did that. The foreign substance is her saliva. But in Texas, and by way of federal law, she can get anywhere from a fine up to 20 years in prison. So you break it down two ways. If nobody is harmed by her having licked the ice cream, for example, nobody buys the ice cream, nobody comes down, for example, with mononucleosis or hepatitis or staph infection, which is highly unlikely, then she's not going to get 20 years. It goes from a fine then up to 10 years. So the bigger question then becomes, what should a court do? Should she really go to jail for this?
Yeah.
I'm torn by this. I mean, you have to set an example, Julie, for people that you can't walk into a grocery store and, put your saliva or drop some blood or a poison into a product. You got to set a precedent. But at the same time, it's saliva. And believe it or not, I did a little research on this. Usually saliva doesn't create an infection. We all we're kissing our partners, and people don't usually get sick. We have enzymes in our saliva that deters an infection. So I'm kind of torn by this. Yeah,
I know,
it
it's just
bad.
so disgusting.
She shouldn't have done it.
I mean, there's a big difference, of course, between a prank and malicious intent. And you watch the video, she's laughing. It seems that this was just a stupid prank. The question is, does it matter in the eyes of the court what the intent was, if it wasn't malicious?
Yeah. Great question. It does. And in fact, the prosecution is going to have to show that she did have an intent to create bodily injury to somebody else. And you're right, the video speaks volumes. It actually is going to help her in defending against these charges because it shows that she's laughing and she just pulled off the lid and threw it back in there. So I think at the end of the day, she's going to end up probably with a significant fine and probably probation for what she did.
There's a crime. It's actually called tampering with a consumer product, as you mentioned. It could be a violation of federal law. Is that correct?
That's right. She could be charged with either a state law in Lufkin, Texas, or a federal law. But both, I looked at both laws, and they both provide the same penalty. So I think it's easier just to file that in state court and seek, have her punished for that. But again, I think it's going to be harder than it looks, and I think that she's going to fight it, and she's going to end up probably. Maybe she will do some jail time. Maybe the judge gives her 6 months, sends a message to the world that you can't tamper with a product. I mean, it is pretty serious. We all love ice cream. And
I would imagine it's going to be pretty difficult to get a federal conviction, though, and prove beyond reasonable doubt that she committed reckless disregard, if you will.
Right. They've got to prove that they're right. It's a reckless disregard under the federal law. It's a little higher standard than the state law. The state law that she did it with an intent to create probable, here's the key, Julie, it's got to be probable bodily injury. And I really think at the end of the day, the state and federal statutes were geared for something much more severe than saliva on ice cream. It's something like I talked about, where you're putting an actual bodily fluid or a toxin or a poison into a product that somebody might consume. That's really what it's geared toward. But be careful with your ice cream.
I mean, it's disgusting. I never want to have ice cream out of a tub ever again. Brian Claypool, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Or make sure that there's a plastic seal over it, which usually in ice cream there is a plastic seal. So if there's no plastic seal,
No.
toss it.
Yeah. Did you see how she just pulled it right off, too? I mean,
Yeah.
I think the store's got to do some, the store's got some duty here, too, to make
Yeah.
sure that that seal is on tighter. I noticed that. Good point.
All right,
Yep.
Brian Claypool, thank you very much. Nasty topic.
You bet. Thanks, Julie.
Enjoy.